So this is another video where we don't have much footage because it was kind of a high stress situation, and I just about managed to get the GoPro on the front of the boat and didn't record anything else.
Well, and the reality was I couldn't see a damn thing. So
this is the day that we filmed going on the Foss, which should have been the last video, and we were exhausted and wanting to get some sleep. So at 9 o'clock I took George out for his evening bathrooms, and discovered that the river water had come up 4 inches in 4 hours maybe.
Yeah, and anything George did to add to the depth of the river was going to just be a problem.
So I got back on the boat and said, Michael, the water's lapping over the edge, and it's obviously a river, so the water level can vary, and the mooring that we were on was just a solid concrete wharf, so
Yeah.
there's no riser rails or anything. So if the water came up too far, we had risk of floating over the concrete. So we went onto the river levels. I think it was the EA website. I can't remember now.
Yeah, and it has kind of a
Prediction
of what level the water is going to get to. So we saw, well, this could be bad.
Yeah, it showed predicted over 1 metre by morning. So obviously that would mean we'd either have to stay up all night adjusting the ropes and trying to keep the boat safe, or moving the boat in the flood.
Yeah. So we decided to do the latter. First thing that we sort of realized before the water came over the edge was it made sense to fill up with water, because we were very low on water anyway. The water point was very close to us.
Yeah, there was a tap there, and we knew that if the river stayed flooded for a number of days, we wouldn't be able to travel to the tap, so that added another complication. So what we did is we left George on the boat, and I think I took the bow line and Michael took the stern line, and we dragged the boat back because there was no other narrowboats, because all the other narrowboat owners were sensible enough not to be on a flooding river. So we pulled the boat back a few hundred metres along the moorings to the water point, with the water lapping up over onto the concrete.
Yeah, like we had to walk around puddles and everything.
Yeah, so then we got the drinking water, filling our tank, and we didn't really know what we were going to do, but we had this idea that there was this other visitor mooring, which was much higher, so the concrete was 1 metre above the water level, so it seemed to make sense to go there, but we hadn't really paid much attention to it, so I decided to walk there and just see if there was room for us to go. So I walked through York at 9:30 at night on a Wednesday with all the drunks and students and people out having a good time, and I practically in my pyjamas with the dog, and found where this place was, realised that we could get the boat there.
No, I knew we could get the boat there. My question was whether or not we should do. Getting the boat there was a fairly simple matter of just untying. It was going to be easy to get there. In fact, we had a really good risk of going past there. It was mainly a question of whether or not there was room there, because that is the area where all of the trip boats tie up as well. So, there is a section that is recreational moorings, but they could have been in use, and we just didn't know what was there. So Joe went back and checked on that. Then she radioed me and told me, yes, there is in fact room. Well, I think if I remember correctly, the main thing you radioed me was I can't see the sign.
Because it was below the...
It was below the water at that point. So I ended up fully loaded up with water into the tank at the front. And unfortunately, you can barely see it here, but during the time that I'm tied up and filling up with water, the pathway we had pulled the boat down just an hour before was now inundated with water.
Yeah, so we acted at the right time. So the first thing Michael had to do was spin round, because he's facing upstream and we needed to go downstream. Mm-hmm. And immediately behind us is a bridge, but luckily it's a single span that went all the way across the river. So
yeah, this one was no worry in that it's a much bigger span than our boat. So rotating around was really just as long as I can get into the middle of the river, I'll be fine.
Yeah, the only issue is obviously because the river was going into flood, there was a lot more water coming down than there had been for, a few hours earlier when we did the trip on the Foss.
I tell you, speeds up the rotation a fair bit.
Yeah, because as soon as you get kind of at a right angle,
you're just going around. I could have turned it by just leaving the rope on at the back and shoving the front out and just let it spin me around.
But this is quite a good representation of the lack of light that we were dealing with. It was dark.
It was interesting for me because my night vision was just blown away by all of these streetlights and everything. So I really couldn't make out anything other than the brightest reflections on the water. And the bridges, this bridge and the next bridge, well, all the bridges, were essentially just black holes in my view. Like I couldn't see anything of the actual structures. All I could see was, oh, there's the reflections, and here's this great big gap on either side. Don't hit the dark spot, right? Like whatever you do, don't aim for the dark bit where you can't see any lights and reflections, and you should be fine. But then the span after this one, I think it's the second one.
Yeah, it's round a bit of a bend, so we couldn't actually see it at this point. And I'm standing at the mooring, kind of waiting to see the navigation lights come round.
Yeah, and this is where you can see this blue light that occasionally pulses, and it's at a Slug and Lettuce. What is a Slug and Lettuce exactly?
It's a pub.
It's a pub? Okay.
It might be a restaurant.
Yeah,
it's a chain.
It's a chain, and I've seen them, and I think of them as like a bistro or something with a bizarre name, because I don't want to, I'm a vegetarian, so I like my lettuce, but I don't really like my slugs. So, I actually like slugs just fine, I just don't want to eat them. But this blue light was the brightest source of light, and it was highly directional towards the boat. So every time this thing would pulse, I'd lose all of my night vision entirely, and I'd just be like, that's it, I'm blind. I can't see anything except for this pulse of blue.
You can see the lights going across the bridge, and you can occasionally see a vehicle going across the bridge. What you can't see is there's 3 arches, so there's 2 big concrete stanchions in the water that Michael has to desperately avoid.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've got aim just for the middle, and I can see some reflections, so I know vaguely where that middle is, but I can't see the stanchions at all. And in the daylight, when you see these stanchions, they've got like these big trees stuck up against the ends of them from the river flow and everything. So it's like there's not just the concrete to worry about, there's, debris and everything. It's not a huge worry, but every time that blasted blue light comes off from the Slug and Lettuce, I've got no reference again. I have no way of seeing it, and it just made for a not exactly stressful, but a little bit like, well, this could go very, very bad if it goes bad.
But you made it through, and I'm standing on the mooring with the head torch, and the torch from the walkie-talkie, and I'm saying, I'm flashing the light so you can see where you're aiming for. Yeah. And Mike was like, I can't see it. Oh, it's not it flashing. That might be.
Yeah, it might be a tiny little dot over there somewhere. Let me tell you, is it doesn't come anywhere close to the Slug and Lettuce thing.
But because Michael's currently going with the flow of the water, what he had to do is spin the boat around and then come back to me. Yeah, I think that's me flashing the light. So yeah, he had to travel beyond me and then turn in the dark and then come back to where I was standing.
Luckily at this point, now that I'm down through the bridge, I know how wide this area is, and I know that I've got nothing to worry about.
Well, there's another bridge ahead, but you should make the turn before you get...
Oh yeah, no, I got a long way to go before I get to the next bridge.
Well, you can see the next bridge.
Yeah, but I know.
And hopefully that one's better lit.
Well, it's like I've walked this a whole bunch of points. Yeah. So once I get through the bridge where the Slug and Lettuce is, this is the place where there's all of these boats lined up, and then there's all of these dolphin moorings on the left-hand side that are for the rental fleet and everything, and then there's this portion of the castle wall, and like I just know there's a long stretch here where there's no obstacles. I'm safe to make the turn. I just have to snap around and I'll be pointed back in the right direction.
And once you turn around, then there's more control because you're pushing against the water, so the speed slows right down. And I'm just standing on the wharf in my pajamas with drug people going past.
Yeah, and see here I'm just letting the river, sort of do the work of spinning me around so I don't move too far forward, because I don't want to give the prop too much push or I'll come forward. But it's pretty sedate at this point. Like I'm through the bridge and I'm not worried about anything. I just wish they would stop blinding me with that bloody blue thing from the Slug and Lettuce.
And it was safe, but just the fact that there's such poor visibility makes everything feel less safe. And we still had to work out how to tie up, because at this stage when we come in, the wharf is much higher than the boat.
Yeah.
Which is why we moved there.
Yeah. Now I do, if anybody wants to volunteer to send me a pair of military spec night vision goggles, not going to complain, because I realized in this whole maneuver that they would actually come in quite useful. There's your torch finally showing up. But yeah, it's funny, like in my mind it was actually darker than what the camera's showing here. I could see even less than you can see here.
Yeah.
But see, it was a fairly easy thing to moor up to. Like it was really just kind of pull to the side, and get a rope on there and we're done.
So yeah, safely moored up for the night, and you can see that the wharf is much higher. Sure enough, when we woke up the next morning, it had gone up a meter.
Yeah, we were pretty much level with that thing. It was like step off instead of being below it. So yeah, I'm glad we made the move.
You see the flow on the water there.
Yeah, the flow's definitely there. It's something you got to be prepared for when you're in York. But if you're going to be prepared for it, river can change. You might have to move in the middle of the night or get inundated. In one way or another, you're just going to have to contend with the slug and lettuce.
Yeah. So I hope you found that interesting. And thanks for watching.
And if you have to, don't worry about this. It's not a big deal. It was fun. It was.
The worst thing was getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Because we just settled in to watch some TV.
Yeah, and we were like comfortable and ready to go and everything, and all of a sudden we've got to make this big shift and everything, and it felt like a lot, and it was a lot. It was, it was 2 hours of work doing this. Suddenly in the middle of the night with a bewildered dog.
Yeah.
And me being, completely blind by the end of it. But at the end of the day, it's just part of boating when you're on a river. Yeah. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little slice of emergency boating life. Hope you enjoyed this little slice of minor repositioning due to water changes.
I'm going to have to use a better clickbaity title than that.
Yeah, it's going to have to be more clickbaity than minor repositioning change in the middle of the night. Yeah. The main thing is, hope you enjoy this experience of being blinded by a bright blue light. Please don't put a bright blue light in your slug and lettuce. So thanks for watching. Hope you like that. Give us a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. Minimalist, maximal velocity, blah, 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 blah.
And normal cruising videos will resume.
When we cruise normally again. Yeah.